Hey guys. Hello guys. It has been a minute. Well, you know, we've been seeing each other for the book club, but I'm going to sit here. It's been a minute since we've just like had like a, you know, a non-book club video and moment. And so I just wanted to do a little, like a little catch up. I'm sitting down, I'm sitting on the floor. I want it to be, like I said, really, let's really get comfortable. Hold on, I have to crack my back. So how has 2020 been treating you? So this is a little catch up just to go over what I've been to Barnes & Noble. This is what I do when I'm doing my thumbnail. Checking myself over there and I'm like, So many times I'll forget to do the thumbnail. And yeah, it's like, oh, the thumbnail. Anyhow, so yeah, it's been a minute since I've done a video. It's just because it's just a lot going on. I actually have a couple of things that I really want to share with everybody, but I can't yet. So, but it's just some like, dream come true type stuff, and I'm really excited about that. But yes, let's move on. First of all, I think I want to do another separate video, which is just kind of like a life update, that kind of thing. And also you can let me know like what you're into and what you'd like to know. But yeah, this video is kind of just like an impromptu. Went to the bookstore recently and got some books, and some of them were recommended to me, and I just wanted to share with you. I'm also having a tea. This is the Republic of Tea's turmeric, and actually, no, let me stop. This is the Republic of Tea's turmeric special edition pack. So I really like the Republic of Tea a lot because it's organic. If you're going to drink tea, guys, please let me recommend to you, if there's anything that you're eating, definitely check out the Dirty Dozens. So make sure that you're eating those organic fruits and such. Also, if you're going to have tea and coffee, try to be as organic as you can, especially with, I say especially with tea, but it really is both. But sometimes it can be harder to find the coffee that you like that's organic. But you should, because when it comes to pesticides and chemicals, teas and coffees are some of the worst offenders when it comes to the amount of pesticides and chemicals and how toxic they can be. And since you're steeping, you don't want to steep a plant that's full of pesticides into hot water so it all comes out and you drink it, right? Obviously. So if you can, organic. And this is the Republic of Tea's turmeric special edition. So it's like turmeric and matcha, turmeric and ginger, turmeric and cinnamon. And also when you're having turmeric, I don't know if they've put it in here. I think maybe they did in some of these, I don't know. A little bit of black pepper, because you can have turmeric all day, but if you don't have a little bit of black pepper, you're not getting the absorption that you should. All that said, guys, that was just my tea. I missed you guys, and I hope you've liked the ASMR videos too. If you haven't already subscribed to Study With Me, my second channel. It's just like a lot of, I'll be doing a lot more writing, studying with me, writing with me / reading with me videos, so stay tuned for those. But let's get on to the books. So I've got 3 bags of books. I haven't actually been, now the reading is, I'm able to do a lot of reading, but I've been doing lots of writing. Normally I do both, but with the last few months, it's just been kind of like really hectic. So I've been doing reading every day, but really slow, like being so sleepy I finished like 10 pages, but I'm getting better. So the books I have, first I'm going to show you this stack of books. These are the books that I recently got, but they don't fit into the bag. I think I threw the bag away. And we're gonna just go through them really quickly, right? I'm not saying these are amazing because I've yet to read these books. These are the books that I'm interested in reading, and I'm excited to read because they were either highly recommended or I was just doing a lot of research online and I'm into, but I can't say for sure if these are amazing or not. Shiggybane, or Shiggybane. First of all, this, make sure you see this. Look at this cover, you guys. This book was actually, when I got it, it was National Book Award long listed and it was shortlisted for the Booker Prize. It has since won the Booker Prize. But what grabbed me, first of all, was this cover. I mean, being a boy mom, I saw this cover and it grabbed my heart so much. It like says so much about the relationship between, to me, with me and my son, like just how much I love him and how wonderful he is and that connection that we have. And you look at the picture and the boy is just looking at his mom like he wants to protect his mommy. And so one, I was like, oh, this cover is amazing. And two, I was like, oh, but I can tell it's going to be a heart-wrenching book, because any kind of novel that has this on the cover means this is going to be sad. So I picked it up. I'll just tell you what it says on the back, a little few lines. Shiggybane is the unforgettable story of Hugh Shiggybane, a sweet and lonely boy who spends his 1980s childhood in run-down public housing in Glasgow, Scotland, taking care of his beloved mother, Agnes. So basically what I gathered from this too, from other sources, and the synopsis is that, you know, he has other brothers and sisters. His mother has a philandering husband. His other siblings they kind of veer away from her because she is so dangerous as far as like just being caught up in her whirlwind of emotions, because she is an alcoholic. But he sticks with his mom, and somehow he sticks with his mom through, of course, ups and downs, and I can't even imagine what his childhood must be like. But he grows up, and the few pages that I read, it looked as if his mother still had him kind of, not her hooks in him, but still really close. It's still a very traumatic relationship. And so we're seeing what happens to him. And he's like a sweet child, and he grows up with this push-pull in this, what seems like a slightly emotional, if not physically abusive relationship with his mom. So yeah, pretty tough. But the few pages that I read of it, I loved, and like I said, it's since won the Booker Prize. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm really excited. The black and white cover reminds me of A Little Life, and I'm just like, oh, there's something about classic black and white covers I really, really like. This is something that's been on my radar for whenever, I think it came out a couple of years ago, but since it first came out, it's been on my radar. Let me double check, make sure it's still filming. Fleischman is in Trouble. This was part of the National Book Award long list when it came out. And essentially this book is about the little that I know of it, because you guys know that I only like to know as little as possible, usually going into a book. There's a man whose wife leaves him, and he's thinking that it's just because, you know, she kind of just ran out on him. One day she just came, and on his weekend she left. Well, I think they were already divorced or they were separated, but she came, dropped off the kids, and then she never came back. So, and after that, he like becomes this huge woman magnet, and he's kind of like, well, what's going on? Because he's on this app. But essentially what we're learning about is what he felt about his marriage, what he thinks was the deterioration of the marriage, and how it may not have been what he thought. How their marriage might not have been what he thought. And it's written by a woman who, I think this was supposed to be kind of like a very feminist take on, she's a staff writer. Taffy Brodesser-Akner is a staff writer for the New York Times Magazine. I did a lot of little internet researching, and I think I saw a couple of articles in which the author was talking about having like a feminist twist on not just a marriage, but I'll leave it at that for now. She's coming at this very much from a feminist point of view, because if this were written by a man, not saying that men cannot get in touch with women's emotions or the dynamics of a relationship, I probably would be wondering if we had situations in which the relationship wasn't delved into thoroughly enough, especially when it came to the woman's point of view. I can think of a few books that hit me that way, but because this story is being told from her perspective, I feel like we're, from the author's perspective, the feminist perspective, I feel like we're going to get a really interesting understanding of a man and his idea of his marriage. I don't think I told you the author's name, Douglas Stewart. This is his debut, by the way. Yeah, I thought it was interesting because he began his career in fashion design, and he was writing in like the New Yorker and Literary Hub and everything, but this is his first novel. So there's that. I don't know how many of you guys have read Jodi Picoult. I know she's written so many books, I think like 30 something books. 24 novels. So this is her 24th novel. I've never read any of her stories before, but this one just grabbed me. The synopsis, The Book of Two Ways. Essentially, this book is about a woman who we open up on a plane, no spoilers. We're on an airplane, and they're going in for a crash landing. I think she's not the only survivor, but she's one of a handful of survivors in this plane crash. And afterward, they want to know where do you want to go? Do you want us to take you, you want to go home? We'll give you a ticket home, although I can imagine a lot of people would not really want to jump right back on a plane after experiencing something like that, like a crash landing where basically everyone dies. But they ask her where she'd like to go. And instead of going to her, as she's crashing, while she's going down, she's thinking of her life and what she's done. And it's like, this is it. She's not thinking so much about her 14-year-old daughter and her husband, but about the man that over a decade ago she left, like maybe 15 years ago, that she left to pursue whatever she was pursuing, but she ended up meeting someone else, getting married, etc. And she's thinking about like, what if? So instead of going, when they're asking her after the crash, like, where would you like to go? She decides that she wants to go to Egypt, or I think he's somewhere around there, to see him, to find him. And I think she gave up a career as well. She wanted to be an Egyptologist or something like that, and something in archaeology. And she kind of just let everything go, and she's wondering what would happen if she hadn't. This intrigued me in so many ways because I wanted to be an Egyptologist when I was growing up. That was one of the things I wanted to be. And some people, that's very intriguing. I think a lot of us can say that is an intriguing synopsis. Some people say that when it came to the execution, there was a lot of information regarding Egyptian history and mythology. So if you were into that and you wanted to be an Egyptologist one day, that is going to be fascinating. If you're not so into that, people said it felt a little too much like they were also learning something from a textbook. I'm into that. So to me, I'm like, no, bring it on. I even saw like a picture in here in which like they have like this little hieroglyphic thing, and then they're showing like the picture of what she's talking about. Sounds fascinating. I'm not sure if it's a sliding doors kind of situation in which we're seeing how her life would have been had she never left the man, but she definitely goes back and we see what happens then. I also picked up The Bone Shard Daughter by Andrea Stewart. This, I'm very hesitant to just buy millions of fantasies because there's so many SFF books out there. For me to have one that I want on my shelf, it has to be something that I think I'm going to love and keep for a long time. So let me set up posture. Okay. I don't know a lot about this. This is book 1 of The Drowning Empire. What I do know that there is, it's a fantasy that takes place in an Asian-inspired universe, and the way the magic works, the reason why it's called The Bone Shard Daughter, is that the magic works by using bones. So people take like pieces of bones from themselves or other people, like behind the ear or something like that, and they use that to conjure magic. They also take bones from other people, willing or unwilling, and they use that. But the more they use the bone, the person deteriorates, from what I understand. And essentially, I think, yes, the emperor, basically the emperor's daughter, she is his heir, but he does not recognize her, and she's trying to make her way into power. That's the long and short of it. But I was really most intrigued by the bone magic, and also that so many people seem to love this story as far as like the political machinations, the magic, the world building, the pacing. It's just been so lauded that I felt like it just really stood out and I wanted to check it out. So that is The Bone Shard Daughter by Andrea Stewart. And next, okay, so now let's get to the bags. So first bag, this is The Motorcycle Diaries by Ernesto Che, I never pronounce this correctly, Che Guevara. So everyone knows him as the revolutionary, but he did write in a journal in which he and his brother just basically got on a motorcycle and traveled all over South America and even farther up, I believe. Did they go into North America? I'm not sure. And I think they went overseas a little bit into Cuba, but it was basically a year-long trip in which they just saw the country. And you think about people when they say backpacking in Europe, he essentially just took the motorcycle, went all over the place, just to explore, journaling his experiences. And these experiences influenced, I don't know how well you can see these pictures because they're very faded old photographs. These influenced his politics, his philosophy, and I think it's incredible. I never saw the movie. Plan to fix that. I remedy that one day, but I did want to read the book first. So this is just the young Che Guevara's lively and highly entertaining travel diary. This new expanded edition features exclusive, unpublished photos taken by the 23-year-old Ernesto on his journey across the continent, and a tender preface by Lita Guevara, offering an insightful perspective on her father, the man and the icon. You guys, I am just a sucker for books. Books are like my favorite thing. It was my world when I was like, reading was my world when I was a kid, and it's just like my happy place. And I don't know, I just love reading. And even though I don't have all of my books here, I do think it's something great to create your library and to have books that you love. And it doesn't mean you have to read it right now. Try not to get stressed out about the amount of books you have. If you have too much and you're just buying indiscriminately, of course, you want to curb that for many reasons. But like, sometimes I've pulled a book from the shelf that I've had for years, and it just hits me at that right time. Like, it's the thing that I needed when I needed it. And I believe that the universe works that way. So I think when you cultivate a library, you're creating and curating your own personal library. It's like what you're feeding your brain. And sometimes your mind subconsciously may know, your mind and also the universe knows what you need at that moment. So that was a side note. This came recommended to me. I never saw the movie, War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy. I don't think I've ever even tried to read this book, but it's supposed to be so great. It's about war and it's about peace, and it's a huge saga. Relationships, romance, family. The scope of the book is what actually intrigues me the most, and I really want to see how Leo Tolstoy created such a large epic story. That is what, and it's lasted for so long. Books that last, stories that last for a reason, and I want to know why. So this is Leo Tolstoy's War and Peace. It's supposed to be a fantastic translation. This is the best translation so far of Tolstoy's masterpiece into English, which grabbed my attention as well. That's why I picked that. It's a huge book, but yes, I'm for it. I am here for it. Next book. Next bag. Okay. Long Bright River by Liz Moore. I've been seeing that, first of all, it's like a cover. Like, something about this cover, it just, it makes me, it's just like a cold drink of water, probably because it's rain on the cover, and it also makes me thirsty. It also, I don't know, something about it just, blue is my favorite color. The color, the shade of this blue, or the hue rather, it's just, there's something about it that's just so attractive. And I'm a big sucker too for typeface covers. Yes, so it's a literary thriller. I love that as well. It's, published by Riverhead, so it's going to have, it's going to be fast-paced and be what you would expect in a thriller, but it's going to have a lot of exploration, character exploration, that we love from our literary books as well. Two sisters travel the same streets through their lives, though their lives couldn't be more different. Then one of them goes missing. All I know is what the synopsis is, and this also came recommended to me as well. In a Philadelphia neighborhood rocked by the opioid crisis, two once inseparable sisters find themselves at odds. One, Casey, lives on the streets and device of addiction. The other walks those same beats on her police beat. So you have an addict and a police officer. They're estranged, they don't speak, and then the girl who's addicted to opioids disappears. I didn't even read further than that, because I didn't want to know too much. But it had a huge buzz when it first came out, and I think it's still buzzing. So excited to read this one. Catch-22. Catch-22 by Joseph Heller. I've been meaning to read this for years also. Also a classic. The whole phrase catch-22. And we say it, like, oh, it's like a catch-22. But I didn't realize until, like, I don't know when, but that it was actually a book. And it was a phrase that came from a book. And then I wanted to know, first of all, I think it's so amazing that something that comes from a book can so ingrain itself into pop culture, because usually you see that with movies and you don't always see that with literature, at least not recently, right? Because so many things like Sherlock Holmes and all these other things, we see that. We don't see it as much with more modern literature, I guess, or in recent times, right? Anything post 60s, 70s. Not saying that it never happens, because like Lolita, right? Even if you use that word, people know what you mean. Tend to, but yeah. But for this lingo to just catch, it's just to me is amazing. Stephen King says, to my mind, there have been 2 great American novels in the past 50 years. Catch-22 is one. I want to know what Stephen King thinks is the other one. I feel like I might have a few guesses. So yes, 50 years after its original publication, Catch-22 remains a cornerstone of American literature and one of the funniest and most celebrated books of all time. In recent years, it has been named to Best Novel lists by Time, Newsweek, The Modern Library, and The London Observer. So apparently, I don't want to read the whole synopsis, but apparently there's a soldier who wants to go home. If he goes home, he can get home a certain way, but that also means that he won't get this other thing that he needs. So that's the Catch-22. He'll be in violation of Catch-22, a hilariously sinister bureaucratic rule. That's where the phrase comes from. And yeah, again, modern classic or classic. I really want to read this one. And I would go to the bookstore and I would see it for years and just never pick it up. But I think they just made it a movie or a show. An original series coming soon to Hulu. So there's that. And there is another bag. This was not a cover buy, but this was something I'd never heard of before. I'd never seen. I just happened upon it when I was in the bookstore looking around. And something about the slim volume of this novella, the beautiful cover, it just looked like a big secret to me. Like finding like some ancient manuscript or story that's just tucked away that no one really knows about. Their marketing department really did their thing. Like when it came to creating the cover, the design department. It's called Fly Away by Kathleen Jennings. And it's blurred by Kelly Link. Jennings' prose dazzles and her magic feels real enough that you might even prick your finger on it. And it has quite a few blurbs from Holly Black, Kelly Link, Alex E. Harrow, Garth Nix. It just says, in a small western Queensland town, a reserved young woman receives a note from one of her vanished brothers. So all of her brothers are gone and she doesn't know why. I do remember that. And she basically tries to find out what's happened to her family because her brothers are gone and her father is gone as well. And it's pretty short. Like I said, it's a novella and it's a thin volume, and it just I put it down at first because I was thinking, oh, it's a novella, I don't know, and I'm completely unfamiliar with the author. Oh, still recording. Look at this. It's a heart. I'm completely unfamiliar with the author, and it's a novella, it's short. Am I going to even be into this? Is it going to be one of those things that are interesting and quirky, but I'm going to say like what's going on and not for me? That happens sometimes. But I don't know, I flipped through a few pages and I really liked what I read. So I'm excited to get into this too. It would be one that would be great for a single sitting, I think, because it's so short, and whenever my reading gets fragmented, it's harder for me to keep track and keep the feel of the story. And here are 2 books. Oh, great. I think this is a duology. That's good to know. Okay. And I have not read any of her work, which is like, I'm like, for shame. Octavia E. Butler's, is it the Earthseed trilogy or duology? This is the Earthseed books. These are the Earthseed books. There's 2 books. Earthseed duology by Octavia E. Butler, and I have not read any of her work. For those of you who don't know, she's one of the best, she's no longer living, but she is considered one of the best science fiction writers of our time, and just accolades over this series. Originally published in 1998, originally published in 1998, this shockingly prescient novel's timely message of hope and resistance in the face of fanaticism is more relevant than ever. Yeah, sorry, I just started reading let me read to you. There's a foreword by N.K. Jemisin. I meant to read it, but I saw a recent interview with N.K. Jemisin, which put this back on my radar and moved it up my TBR list. And she wrote about how she had encountered these stories at first. And she said that at first, she didn't say that in this forward, I don't believe, but in the interview, she was saying that she didn't get it at first, and she just thought some of it was very unrealistic. It wasn't until later that when she read it that she kind of could see how some of it would be plausible. And then even when she thinks back about these stories, thinks back to these stories now, and seeing what's going on in our political landscape, how Octavia Butler just seemed to be seeing into the future. So I will tell you what the synopsis says here. John Green says this pairs well with 1984, The Handmaid's Tale. So the first book is Parable of the Sower. And it says, when global climate change and economic crises lead to social chaos in the early 2020s, California becomes full of dangers, from pervasive water shortages to masses of vagabonds who will do anything to live to see another day. I'll skip this part so it's not like too much information. 15-year-old, she's in a gated community, and she suffers for a hyperempathy, a debilitating sensitivity to others' emotions. She has to make her voices heard in order to protect her loved ones from the imminent disasters her small community stubbornly ignores. But what begins as a fight for survival soon leads to something much more, the birth of a new faith and a startling vision of human destiny. She lives with her father as a preacher. Okay, book 2. So we go from, I think this is 2024, book 1. And, oh no, I'm going to read this to you anyway. I'm like, I don't want to spoil us for book 1, but we should know this. In 2032, Lauren Olamina has survived the destruction of her home and family and created a peaceful community in Northern California based on her newly founded faith, Earthseed. Okay, I'm laughing just because I remember like joking with my parents that one day I was going to like create a religion. We were having this big philosophical question and this philosophical discussion and a question about spirituality and myth, and I was just trying we were talking about like the differences between myth and religion and how things can become religion, and I was like, well, I could create a religion right now. I could create my own religion, and it would seem so kooky to so many people, but then let's just say 3,000 years from now, or 1,500 years from now, or 2,000 years from now, it's a different story, right? Because everyone who's here would be, anyhow, that's a whole digression. We have a lot to catch up on. But this is a conversation I had with them like years and years and years ago. Anyhow, so this main character creates a faith called Earthseed. The fledgling group provides refuge for outcasts facing persecution after the election of an ultra-conservative president who vows to make America great again. Octavia Butler was writing this in the late 90s, or writing this in the 90s, and it was published, in the late 90s. And an ultra-conservative president who vows to make America great again. In an increasingly divided and dangerous nation, Lauren's subversive colony, a minority religious faction led by a black woman, becomes a target for President Jarrett's reign of terror and oppression. Years later, Shiggybane reads the journals of a mother she never knew. Okay, we don't want to go to that part because that's going to give us a little bit too much. I know they put it on the back, but so basically we see her growing up here, and then there's a new religion that's founded because she comes from a religious family and her father's a preacher, and it looks like in the year 2032 she's grown, and we're dealing with this president who wants to make America great again. There's a lot of terror happening. We're also dealing with climate issues because you remember there were water shortages and such, and now she has a daughter. So we're going to move forward into the future, and we're going to meet her daughter who gets to know her mother through those journals. This sounds fascinating. Doesn't this sound fascinating? And I'm like, why have I not yet read this? For shame. Seriously, for shame. Definitely wanting to read this. I just wanted to wait for the perfect time because I think I want to just read books 1 and 2 back to back. Also, some recent purchase I had. I'm just going to show you because even though this is not part of the recent book haul as far as like, or I say book purchases, right? Haul sometimes just sound like, I mean, I know we say book haul, but something about it also kind of just sounds indiscriminate. And I'm very picky about getting the books. But I don't know if I told you about The Throne of Five Winds, but these are pretty recent purchases as well. Those were the last 2 weeks, but this was maybe like a month ago, and I do want to still share it with you because I think it's so cool and interesting. Yeah, I should share that with you. Okay, hold on. Too many books. Okay, I'm going to just hold one up at a time. Okay, so we have The Fifth Season by N.K. Jemisin, who I just said was blurbing the not blurbing, but she wrote the foreword for the Octavia Butler series. This is the first book, the 5th season. This is the Trilogy box set. I didn't even read it, but there's just something there. It's so highly lauded, and I felt like when it comes to world building and listening to her speak, I'm so interested and so fascinated by her process, and I just felt like I just needed to buy the book, and I wanted to support. So there's that. Also, The Throne of the Five Winds. This is book 1 in the Hostage of Empire series. It seems super intriguing. You have competing heirs to the throne in an Asian-inspired universe again. The only thing though is some people say this is great if you want a long, stretched out read. It doesn't have to be pacey. You're in there to just go over every single detail. It's very rich in world building. If you're more into that kind of thing, The Throne of the Five Winds by S.C. Emmett. These are the 2 books I've been meaning to read forever. City of Brass and The Kingdom of Copper. Book 3 just came out recently. Is it recording still? Yes. By S.A. Chakraborty. And it's kind of like Middle Eastern inspired fantasy. Jinn and powerful girls who can heal. Well written, rich universe. All of these keywords that were working for me. I just wanted to share those because I felt like those were also recent purchases too. I have some more recent purchases, but honestly, we could go on forever. So I wanted to stick with these. But yeah, that is it. Those were the ones that were most recent, and then I'm really excited to read, and I wanted to share that with you guys. So I hope to have this video pretty soon. I'm not going to over edit it. I just wanted to stay kind of casual. I will be uploading more content onto the channel because I definitely miss you guys, and want to share and share more with you, like books, talk books, all of those things, and see what you're reading as well. In addition to, of course, we have our book club videos too, but I wanted to have more of a chill, what you're reading kind of thing, and how are you doing. I hope you guys are okay and that you're safe. There's so much going on this year, some of it that I think is so good. I know people are like, oh, this has been the worst year, and it has in so many ways. But for what's going on, like socially, regarding social justice, socially, bringing to the fore issues that we've had regarding diversity and discrimination in the workplace, in publishing, in media, and how we need to see we need those things to reflect what the world actually looks like. I think it's been a great year. I think it's been a great year for that, because it's like finally people are getting it. I had a friend who was just like, oh my goodness, I can't wait till, it's like back in the day when it wasn't like all this, dumpster fire going on. I'm like, yeah, but back in the day people were saying, hey, this is racist or that's racist. And people were like, what are you talking about? This doesn't exist. Or we're post-racism now, like post-racist society, like the ridiculousness of all that. I'm like, that's what was happening then. So I don't want to go back to that. And I don't think that was so great. In terms of where we are socially, I feel like although some people could say we're so divided, and have we ever been more divided? I'm like, actually, the divisions were there. I think they've just been brought to light. They've been brought to the surface so everyone can see them. And so although I know that this is hard, it's a hard year for a lot of people. We have coronavirus, and to be honest, I was also having another conversation with someone, and I was like, coronavirus is terrible, but the thing that so many people I know that are dealing with what's, and the thing that's making us stay up at night and we're so angry about, especially if we have kids, is what's going on with this was earlier in the year. I was like, with the lack of repercussions, the lack of consequences when it comes to taking a black life or putting black lives in danger. That was bothering me more than coronavirus, because I was like, when we get through this, we still have to live in a country, even if there is no coronavirus, or if it never was here, where this is happening. I think coronavirus has touched so many of our lives. Like, I think all of us can know someone who either had coronavirus and it didn't bother them, or someone who had it and passed away, or someone who had it and was really, really sick and ill from that. But the thing that's really, really frightening is when you're wondering if, to me, personally what's more frightening, on a personal level, is wondering if my family members, my child, my dad, my friends, if they're going to be okay existing while black. And that to me is that to me is worse. And I think that's why so many of us went out to the protests, and that's why so many of us were just peacefully protesting. But while it was important, despite coronavirus, because that is something that we're going to have to deal with all the time. It's something that we've been dealing with, and that's been happening to our country and happening to people who are here before coronavirus, during coronavirus, after coronavirus. That is something that must be dealt with and handled, and is so deeply entrenched in our country. So that's that. But yeah, I will be having more videos. I don't know how often. I'm going to try to do more than the book club videos only, because I also want to have different things. So just let me know like what you want to see. And yeah, but I'm balancing a lot of things, and I probably can't even make anything. I can't say anything about what I want to tell you about probably for a few months. So we'll just stop talking about it now. I'll tell you about it when I can tell you about it. In the meantime, don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed. And yeah, don't forget to like this if you liked it. And I will see you guys soon. Bye.